Good afternoon, everybody. How are we doing today? We are 9 days away from the NFL draft. I think it's time we start getting a feel for what this team might actually do. We've talked about the things that would make sense for them to do. We've talked about the things that we want them to do, that they should do. And hopefully, there's a significant overlap with that and what they actually do, right? And in some cases there is, but not always. So if you want to get an idea of what the team might actually do in 9 days over the draft, you take a look at the players that they're showing particular interest in. I did this a little bit during the combine. I looked at some of the players that we were interviewing, some of the players we were visiting for their pro days after the combine, just to get an idea of who the team seemed to have interest in. So now we should probably take this video to evaluate the guys they are pulling in for pre-draft top 30 visits. So basically, each team is allowed to pull in up to 30 players to their facility, so the VMAC, and give them the opportunity to show what they can do. And from that process, presumably figure out if they're interested in drafting them. And of course, the fact that they were brought in for a visit at all is pretty indicative of the fact that there is interest there, right? So we're going to take a look at a list of guys. These are guys who either have or will visit the VMAC before the draft. So odds are good that at least one, probably more players on this list will end up Seahawks. I wouldn't expect every player listed here to be part of our draft board. I wouldn't expect like 5 or 6 of our picks even to be from this collection, but it gives you an idea of where the team is looking. It can give you an idea of what they're prioritizing. I think it's generally just a pretty effective way to judge how the actual team feels about their situation, because we can sit here and try to figure it out all we want to, but at the end of the day, it's the guys in the draft room on draft day that are actually going to figure it out. So Corbin Smith, I should say, Corbin Smith put together this list. So shout out to him. It's in the SI.com Seahawks section. He basically just aggregates all the data that we have on the players that have visited or will visit. So let's go through this list and try to talk things through a little bit. Okay, so Desmond Ritter is the only quarterback we've had on a top 30 visit so far. To my knowledge, other than maybe Matt Corral, Ritter is the only quarterback we've shown an elevated level of interest in. I like Ritter. I don't have a problem with this. If we ended up with Ritter, I would probably be cool with it. I will say this, though. It's becoming clear that a significant chunk of the NFL views Ritter as a first-round pick. So if that's the case, you are probably looking at needing to spend some draft capital to either trade up into the back end of the first to get him, or maybe even, and I hate to say it, using your top pick on him. That would make me a little less excited. If you trade up into the back end of the first and get him, then that's fine because you get the fifth-year option, which is valuable. But if we end up spending, like, say, a top 15 pick on Ritter, that's not one of my favorite things. But Ritter's the one quarterback we've shown elevated interest in. We also brought in Sauce Gardner, which is going to excite a lot of Seahawks fans. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world why we would have interest in Gardner, right? He's the perfect Pete Carroll corner. Perfect Sherman clone with better speed. The dude is something else, and if he is available at number 9, it's hard for me to believe we would pass him up. And the fact that they're having him in, or had him in for this visit, does strongly indicate that they are thinking about it in a similar way. I don't know if he's going to be there, but the team clearly has interest. Boy Mafe is also a player the team has expressed a clear degree of interest in. Had him in for a visit. You guys know I love Mafe. He's one of my top second round targets. I wouldn't even mind it that much if you traded into the back end of the first to get him. Give you that fifth year option on him. He's a player who's going to take some time to grow into his skill set. Boy Mafe, one of my favorite players in this draft. So if you come away with him, I'm really excited about that. I'm happy this team seems like they're really interested in him too. Rasheed Walker, we talked about him a little bit already as well. He's a supremely talented tackle who seems like he's just not all there. He seems like he's a little bit of a goofball. Maybe this is something he's going to grow out of, but it's... Me and the Hawks Nest have talked about this already. The degree to which he's just out there is kind of alarming. So he's one of those talent versus mental talent guys, right? Maybe like Malik McDowell. Obviously, that didn't work out for us, but we have interest here. Taylor Britt is a cornerback. I think he's probably going to be available in the middle to late rounds from Nebraska that I did briefly touch on here. He's relatively Seahawk-ish, I think. He has good ball skills. I'm not going to go too deep into it because we've already discussed him, but he's a good athlete. Makes some sense why you would have him in and take a look at him. So it seems like this team is looking at cornerback as being a potentially key need for them with some of these guys that they're looking at. Also in for a visit was Cole Strange. This is a player we've shown interest in multiple times over the last couple months. It seems like there's a high probability that if the Seahawks have a chance to pick him, they will take that chance. I don't know if he's going to be a guard or a center in the NFL, but either way, he's great on the move, got great mobility, great ability to play in space, going to be great for the zone offense, zone blocking scheme. But he gets pushed around a little bit, and he played at a small school, Tennessee Chattanooga. So there's some real bust potential here, but Cole Strange is a guy this team clearly has a pre-draft crush on. It's gotten so extreme. It's kind of gotten to the point where it would surprise me a little bit if we didn't get him. So definitely mark Cole Strange on your big board. And once we get into that third or fourth, maybe even fifth round, it might happen. Kalyn Barnes is a low-level cornerback in the draft that I spoke about in my cornerback series of videos. He's a very, very fast guy, 4.23 40-yard dash. I am a huge fan of speed in NFL players, probably too much so. I love speed, and I like that some of these players that the Seahawks are looking at in this pre-draft process seem to be the speedsters. So I really like him. He is smaller. I don't know if he's going to be able to play on the outside in the NFL, but I think he can. And obviously the team is not prioritizing as much as they used to, that kind of thing, because of the Trey Brown pick. So a lot of cornerbacks on this list. Now we're starting to get into some of the players that I haven't looked at yet, but I will in the upcoming days. We have Percy Butler, a safety from Louisiana Lafayette. I think that he's pretty good against the run. I think he's pretty good at, pretty good at laying big hits on defense. He's good at run fits, so sounds a little strong safety-ish to me. Maybe we're thinking about a backup for Jamal, which we do need to worry ourselves with because Jamal's health is a concern, and I don't feel like we have a reliable backup for him right now because Ryan Neal didn't impress me as a safety. He's a corner. He should be playing dime corner. So Percy Butler may address that. Armani Rogers, I don't really know what to make of this. We can't spend a pick on a tight end. We can't. If we spend a pick on a tight end, I don't know what to say. It doesn't make any sense unless we are so out on Colby Parkinson we're going to cut him. But I don't think that's the case. However, Armani Rogers is a guy who is probably going to go undrafted because he mostly played quarterback at Ohio. And he projects to be able to play tight end in the NFL, but he's basically not done it. So you probably get him as a UDFA. You can use him on trick plays because he played quarterback in college. That's really all I got for this one. I really hope we don't draft a tight end. Samori Toure, a wide receiver from Nebraska. I already talked about him in the recent receiver video. but he's a guy who transferred from Montana to Nebraska and continued to produce pretty well at Nebraska. Obviously, he was very productive at Montana, but I think it was actually Montana State, but that's not going to carry a lot of weight when you get to the NFL. He's big. He's got a pretty good route tree. He's very good running vertical routes deep down the field. He had numerous big plays in college. Interesting prospect. Probably not going to get drafted all that high either. So definitely appealing. Christian Watson, another guy that we looked at a couple days ago, but I really like Christian Watson. I think he's awesome. The talent is immense. The production, we didn't really see a ton of it in college, but he's a beast. Love him. Really wish we could draft him without it being kind of like, how are we going to utilize him? I don't like that question. I don't like having that question when you've got a team that may be run first and probably will be run first, and you've already got so much stuff invested at wide receiver. You look at Christian Watson and you're like, I really like him, but are we going to get full value out of him? I don't think you can comfortably say that right now. But nevertheless, I really like him, and I couldn't get mad about using a second-round pick on him. Cameron Good, linebacker from California, very effective on the blitz. It seems to me that he would be more of an edge player here. He had a couple of seasons where he had 7+ sacks, a lot of plays made in the backfield. So it seems to me that if we brought him in, it would be as an edge rusher. But I do think that he might be a little too small and weak to hold up in that role in the NFL. So you may see him try to transition to a more inside linebacker type role. I don't know. But interesting that we're targeting him in particular. I'm trying to read into it. Deontay Williams, a safety from Nebraska, another guy who I think was scoped out on Instagram. He's had a lot of injury issues in his career, but he's got good ball skills. He makes a lot of plays on the ball. He's got a decent frame. Probably not going to be drafted because of the injuries, but for a team that does need backup safeties, a guy like him does make a whole lot of sense. I think that you can take a guy and try to slowly groom him over the course of the season, throw him out there a little bit if somebody in front of him gets hurt. This guy strikes me as a little more of a strong safety, I think, but you never know until they get there sometimes. Michael Clemons is one of the most interesting players on this list. He's a guy that was not somebody I knew anything about until I think it was... there's this one Seahawks guy on YouTube and Twitter. Oh, Rob Stanton brought him to people's attention. He was a big Michael Clemons fan, and he's been talking him up a lot. And a lot of people, including myself, didn't even know about him. But now some Seahawks fans are pretty enthusiastic about him. This is a guy who, he's an edge rusher from Texas A&M, had 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss last year. He's had some issues staying on the field. He's had some off-field issues, but he's big. He's 6'5", 263 pounds. He's got more than enough juice to play edge in a 3-4 and be that hybrid type linebacker. Very interesting player. Very interesting mix of speed and power. There's definitely something here. I don't know about his ability to do the outside linebacker 3-4 stuff, but I do think that you could also look at him as maybe a future defensive end in the hybrid defense where he's playing 5 tech on some downs and sliding inside to defensive end on the 3-4 downs. But he's probably the most interesting guy on this list other than the really obvious ones, right? Because Clemons may end up being like a 4th-round pick. Daniel Hardy, defensive end from Montana State. I'll talk about him in the near future. But he's a guy who played non-FCS football. Montana State, which is actually the same school that the receiver we were just talking about, Samori Toure, played at. Hardy had a very good 2021. 16.5 sacks. I know that much. I don't know much about him as a player yet. But he has a chance at getting drafted it would make sense to take a shot on a player like this, especially if you feel like he can do the edge stuff in a 3-4. We've got Derek Young, who I already spoke about the other day. This is a physically intriguing player, a guy with a good combination of size and speed. Seems to be very capable out of the slot, but he played at a very, very small school, Lenoir-Rhyne. I think they produced a second-round pick last year, Kyle Dugar, but you're not going to glean a whole lot from the competition Derek Young's playing against in college at Lenoir-Rhyne, so I doubt he gets drafted, but he's got an outside shot. Last guy is Rodney Thomas from Yale, safety. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this one yet, but obviously he played college at Yale, so you're not playing the greatest competition. Had a pretty good pro day, which kind of put him on the map a little bit. Ran a decent 40 time and had a pretty good vertical. I don't have a whole lot to say about him yet, other than the fact that it makes sense for us to look at low-level backup quality safeties. We need them. I don't know who our backup safeties are right now. I don't think Ryan Neal's the guy. He's not good enough at it. And I don't know what we're doing with guys like Tanner Muse, Josh Jones. I think Asari Crosswell, or I think I saw him in the USFL the other day. One more name, not on this list, but this was one from yesterday. University of North Carolina running back Ty Chandler is going to be visiting the Seahawks. Per Aaron Wilson, I looked him up a little bit. Good vision. He ran a 4.38 at the combine, which kind of put him on the map a little bit. Good pass catcher out of the backfield. Very good vision. Really good at waiting for his blockers to open up a hole and then hitting the hole. So there's definitely some stuff here that makes sense for a zone-based scheme. He can combine his vision and his speed to bust big plays. Not a whole lot of power. Maybe some lack of decisiveness from time to time, but he's the kind of running back that you want to look at in the late rounds for sure. You want to keep taking shots on late round running backs and try to find the guy who sticks. So I'm all for that, and that's all we have so far. Obviously, there are still 9 days between now and the draft, so we're probably going to take a look at a few more guys, but this should give you an idea of who we're interested in. So from this list, you can probably pick out, I would say 2, maybe 3 guys who will end up being Seahawks by the time the draft process is over. All right, I will see you guys later today on stream in Twitch. Don't know exactly when, but see you when it happens. Peace out. Go Hawks.